Live streaming is on.
There's the thing. No, live button will just happen. Oh, it just went live. Okay, well, I guess we're live. So appreciate everybody sticking with me through the technical issues there. We're a little bit late, but I'm going to hit the button at some point here when I find my intro.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans. Another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to podcast. So this is I don't know what to call it. It's not the Daily Gun Show, but it is a live conversation. Screen sharing here, and I'll just fiddle around so that we can share the YouTube chat on one side of the screen and then see the people that we're chatting with. We're using guntube.org, the chamber over there, to live stream conversation with people over here on YouTube, and then a bunch of people that we invited to talk to tonight. And the topic is dealing with people who are stressed, dealing with panic. And then alternatively, these people all happen to be some of the heaviest hitters in 2A activism. So we'll talk about, if there's time, how we might be able to capitalize or exploit some of these situations that are happening right now for the Second Amendment advocacy after all this stuff. So with no further ado, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll start with the top left. We got Cheryl Todd joining us. I'm just going to go through everybody real quick and then let everybody say hi. So we got Charlie Cook, riding shotgun with Charlie. Kingpin joining us. Infernus. Tony Simon from 2A for E. KD, aiming for the truth. Mike from Walk and Talk America, and Cycle Camp. So Cheryl, if you want to introduce, and then we'll just let everybody go through and say hey and introduce your projects. Or
well, hey, thank you so much for putting this together. I think the topic is so perfect for what's going on right now. And I am Cheryl Todd from Gun Freedom Radio. I'm also a business owner. I have an auction house, which is put on the ice cubes for a while, called Pot of Gold Estate Auctions. And I have a gun store called AZ Firearms, and it is gangbusters. It is like bonkers busy right now. So I'm glad that at least one business is doing okay in all of this madness.
right on. Cycle Camp, you want to say hello?
Hi, it's me, Cycle Camp. I'm just a regular guy, retired guy. I'm pretty active in advocacy in my state through the CCDL and also through testifying and doing written testimony and stuff for against good and for good, against bad and for good gun laws and stuff. And I have a pretty average perspective on what's going on around me with my family and stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to contribute something useful to the conversation. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure of it. And if I can quit being distracted and being awkward here, thanks again, Cheryl, for joining us now. I've got your link in there. Cycle Camp is on, he's downplaying his role. He's often a very sober, knowledgeable voice on the Daily Gun Show as a co-host. Thanks. Mike, thanks for joining us. Introduce yourself, Walk the Talk America.
Yeah, I'm Mike Sadini from Walk Talk America, basically a nonprofit organization that bridges the gap between mental health and firearms, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for being here. Katie, thanks for jumping in. Introduce whichever projects you'd like. You got
No, man, it's fine. My name is Kevin Dixie, known as KD or the real NOC on social media. I'm a firearms instructor, 10 years in the law enforcement realm, 20 years giving safety and instruction to various people around the country. Also the founder of Aiming for the Truth, a community program focused on reaching into communities and fixing what's actually wrong to kill violence at its roots. Thus, we can grow stronger pillars of society, have a better world.
right on. And thanks again for jumping in. Really looking forward to your insight. Tony from New Jersey. Let us know about.
Yeah, I'm Tony Simon from the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shoot. Also from Minuteman Challenge. What I do in Jersey is introduce people to the Second Amendment firearms community, guns for the first time, and introduce all people to Second Amendment groups in the state. What I'm going through right now is a lot of stuff is shut down. So I'm just reaching out through my podcast, 2A4E podcast, and doing things like this. I'm going to reach out to the community while the ranges are shut down and trying to make things better. Try to spread education.
Right on. Appreciate what you do. Infernus. I don't know how you want to introduce yourself, but feel free.
I live in the Northwest. I'm a range safety officer at one of the biggest gun clubs in the Portland area. I'm kind of new to the activist side. Been doing this for about 6 months, maybe. My YouTube channel is in rebuild. It was mostly competition stuff. I do a lot of 3-gun, speed still, tactical rifle stuff. But that's about it. Thank you.
Right on. And again, lots of insight. You enjoy in a lot of the live conversations, so appreciate your perspective tonight. There's also no barrier to entry in my chat, so if you're active in 2A, you're welcome. Kingpin, welcome. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for having me.
Figuring out some of the tech here so we could actually get started.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate the panel and everybody in the chat room. My name is David. They call me Kingpin. And basically, I just try to contribute wherever I can and try to sound the alarm. I live in the state of Maryland, so I try to let people know what you don't want to have happen where you live.
Somebody's got to be a canary. Let's get rid of the gases that kill them, though. Charlie Cook, riding shotgun with Charlie. Thanks for jumping in.
Thank you guys for having me. So my name is Charlie Cook. I have a show that I call Riding a Shotgun with Charlie. It's a YouTube channel, and I put the audio out as a podcast. And I'm an instructor here in Massachusetts, and it's great to see so many familiar faces. I appreciate being asked to be on this. Thank you.
You bet. You're not the only teacher I invited, but one of the reasons I invited you is you're being a teacher. I figured you guys
only teacher I invited, but
yeah, that would be me. I'm sorry.
Only teacher I
And then let's see. Next, we've got Patriot jumping in from Michigan.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. I'm just your average blind guy, totally blind, Marine veteran, and I'm an advocate, and I have my CPL. And I just try to open everybody else's eyes and stay positive. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And then who's this last one that jumped in?
Too much coffee in there.
It's just me, Woods.
Like 1 teaspoon.
Who?
Woods.
All right, so we got Woods, another of the educators, a teacher from the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for jumping in. All right, so that's enough of that stuff. So we wasted enough of the show, but we have to do that. It's so that everybody knows who everybody is. We're here to not talk about the stress, right? But instead to talk about how we can talk to people with the stress. Maybe we kind of did it as we introduced each other, but Cheryl's here in Arizona with me. Cycle camps in Connecticut, Mike's in Nevada. Well, assuming everybody's home bases, who knows where everybody's at. KD's in Missouri, Tony's in New Jersey, Infernus, Washington.
Yes, South
Kingpin,
Washington.
What'd you say, Connecticut? No, not Connecticut. Where are you at, Kingpin?
Oh, I'm in Maryland.
Maryland, thanks. Charlie's Massachusetts, Patriots, Michigan, and then another Washingtonian. Or are you Oregon? No, you're Washington. So we're in Elmer's, Arizona with Cheryl. So we're kind of all over the country. What's the stress levels out there? Am I the only one noticing that there's an elevated, I don't know, condition where it's tougher and tougher to talk to people who weren't as difficult or challenging to talk with weeks ago?
This is KD. I'm sorry. I just want to say this real quick because I'm going to feel bad if I don't. I want to give a big hug to Cheryl, a big bro hug to Mike. A high five to everybody else, a bro hug to a shotgun though, and then I want to punch Tony in the face. Now, what was the question again?
Am I the only one who's noticing a need for this kind of a conversation? I just noticed that the stress level is getting high. It's getting a little bit more difficult to talk to people that it wasn't difficult to talk to a couple weeks ago, and I suspect it might get worse, and I'd rather have some strategies going into it. So I guess I was kind of asking the general question, what's the stress level out there? And do you perceive a need for a conversation like this one?
Well, me personally, I've seen a lot of people that aren't necessarily, the stress isn't coming out. I'm seeing more confusion than anything. It's kind of like most individuals that even thought that they were ready for something like this or something in this arena, had all these plans what they would do, and now I'm seeing more people that are like deer in headlights. To them, it's easier just to go home and sit down because the world is too confusing anyway. So the stay-at-home orders that are going around the country, I'm finding that it's putting a lot of people at ease because they really don't know what to do, and they are looking for guidance and advice that is not saturated with conspiracy theories and my cousin's uncle's dad's dog works at the CIA and he says Wednesday you're all going to be whatever, all these different things going on. So they're looking for clear, concise information where they can actually make solid decisions. Right now, they just don't know how to begin. That's what I'm experiencing the most.
I think that's
besides the obvious. Any other? Go ahead.
I think that's basically what I see too. Is just a lot of misinformation is being thrown around everywhere, so it's kind of freaking some people out. But my experience of like going to a fast food thing, if I'm just grabbing something quickly, I mean, people are definitely more talkative, so you could tell they kind of are missing that companionship a little bit, or just going to some of the stores that are open, because we're pretty much forced quarantine here in Washington right now, so they close down mostly everything that is not considered essential. But everyone's been pretty nice. I haven't seen anybody being jerks or much of that.
Well, some of that is probably when there's no stress or no issue for concern, there's no reason to communicate necessarily. You can be in your bubble, but when there's all kinds of unknowns, you probably want to get as much information as possible, and that's how humans do that, right? We look at each other's faces and body language, and we're paying more attention to each other.
Absolutely. So I'll weigh in. Michael Sadini referred to me once as not only a werewolf, but also a vampire, something like that. Did I get that right, Mike?
Yes, you did. Got it.
And what he means by that is that, yes, I am a gun store owner, so I'm in this whole Second Amendment world as an advocate and a retail business owner, but my degrees are all in psychology. And so the exact same intersection that he is occupying, I also do in my world and the way that I think about things. And my training, my studies have really come into play hugely over the last couple of weeks, and challenged me to really, kind of walk my own talk when I do find myself, my anxiety level starting to rise a little bit because I don't know a lot of things. I don't know with our store if I can keep my staff working. I don't know if I can get enough inventory to keep the doors open. I don't know if I'm going to have to lay people off. I don't know if there's going to be this government help that will help me as a business owner, help my staff. There's just a ton of things going on. I don't know if I'm even okay with the government helping me out because that goes against all of my conservative values. So I've had to really focus my own mind and help my staff and help my family completely work on this is what we can do. Let's stop worrying about the stuff we can't do or what might happen tomorrow. Let's try to be as normal as we can in our daily activities and our routines, because there's been a ton of things that have gone completely haywire and upside down. Like on top of all the other hats that I wear, now I am in charge of basically homeschooling my granddaughter. And I have a teacher spirit, and I say that that's, one of my core talents, but teaching a kindergartner how to read, that's not in that. That is very, very out of my normal realm of things that I know how to do. But I have some tools available to me, and we live in a time that I can reach out, and there's some wonderful things on the internet that help with that. But I really had to focus hard on, what do we normally do on a Sunday afternoon? Well, my family normally gets together and we play a board game or something, or we're in Disneyland. Well, Disneyland is closed, so we play a board game, and we went out, in the fresh air and enjoyed that, and just really try to celebrate those moments and not just let them wash past us without really noticing. That was very enjoyable. I'm glad to have to slow down a little bit. I'm glad to have this time with my family. So that's really the main thing is being as normal as possible and focusing on the cans and not being frustrated by the can'ts.
Right on. Thanks for getting us started in a direction. A couple of things you mentioned there, I didn't really take notes, but just the last thing you said there about the vacations is like the perfect time. We always take pictures on vacations, but how often do we actually go back and appreciate them, or maybe organize them into a good, what's it called, a slideshow or something? And, maybe stuff that the kids can barely remember, and now they're old enough to start figuring it out. You can go back and, look at prior vacations or vacations that they weren't in or something. And I've heard suggestions of like cleaning up hard drives and stuff. So yeah, it's an opportunity for that kind of stuff for sure, to get people's minds off of it. And like you say, something close to regular and normalcy. So that's a great suggestion. I want to, again, I don't know if I'm not good at this, but when we started the show, there was a certain amount of people here. I don't know how many people, so I'm not really watching or actually watching right now. But if you're new or if you've just showed up, this is a conversation. So it's not television. We're not watching the old televisions. We're on an internet, right? We're on a computer. You've got a keyboard on your computer. You've got buttons on your phone. Be part of this conversation. What we're doing is exploring how we're going to talk to people that are stressed or dealing with the chaos, people that are under pressure. And some of the stuff you talked about there, because we're all activists, maybe ways that we can set ourselves up or prepare for the after. Because I don't think I think everyone would agree with me. This isn't the opportune time to try to persuade people about 2A or to be an ambassador. Well, we want to be an ambassador 2A, but this isn't the time to try to get people to worry about the Second Amendment necessarily. But after, we're going to have lots of opportunities. So I figure if we want to chat about any of that stuff too, but I don't know. Let me ask this question, maybe to help start us out. I started this conversation because I've noticed that it's more difficult to talk to people, and it's been getting more difficult to talk to people because so many people are stressed. And of course, if they look at the media, they're going to amplify that stress. There's nothing that's trying to put brakes on it at all. So I figured this would just be a way to get some experts and some people that have dealt with stress in different ways, or that deal with talking to people in different ways, to just, be on this topic. But how, I guess that's what I was trying to ask at the beginning of the show. I didn't do it very well. On a scale of 1 to 10, how necessary is a conversation or a skill set like this? Is this something that we as Second Amendment advocates, this is something that we don't need very often, so maybe we don't need to have it? Or is it something that is a useful skill set? And I don't know if we need to go around the room or whatever, but
I'd like to make a quick comment about that. And the first thing I'd like to say is everybody that concealed carries, or I hope most people that concealed carry, know that as the person with the gun in the room, it's their job to be more calm, more stable, more directed than anybody else in the room. And I feel that a lot of 2A people, especially concealed carriers, are already have a lot of those kind of, I'm not going to get upset, I'm not going to let people trigger me. I'll just tell a quick story. My older sister works for an engineering firm, as an administrative person, and I got a phone call last night. It was a message because I wasn't near my phone, and she had been told that she had to go home, and she's literally panicked that she was going to lose her job, and her response to that was to grab a bottle, and she's not a big drinker, but her response to that was to grab a bottle and hug the cat and go to sleep. And I called her back this morning, and her big concern was at home she's all Macintosh, and everybody on her and everybody in the office is Windows 10, and she doesn't have a way to get into the office. So I told her, I said, hey, you remember me, big brother, IT, guy for 43 years? I got machines here. Come on over. And the relief in her voice was just absolutely phenomenal. But until she got past her fear of losing her job, she just wasn't making rational decisions. And it's our job to help, first of all, calm people down, help them see the big picture, and then, offer to help them. And everybody you help is that's one more person that's going to start calming down, and things are going to go a little easier. So I think 2A people and people that are used to carrying are very well qualified, or have the tools, not well qualified, but have the tools to help in these kinds of situations. Overly, I know most of the people I know that can still carry are overly polite. They don't get mad at people in line. They don't have a lot of road rage, that kind of thing. And I think those kind of things serve us very well during this time. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for putting that in there. Was somebody else, I kind of threw it out there, and I don't know, it's nice to have a lot of people in here, but it's also kind of difficult, awkward when I just throw a subject out to however many people got in here, 10 people.
I got it.
Anyone want to add on that before I just jump in again?
Something. Just being the blind guy in the room, some of the things that I do normally, just because obviously I self-isolate anyways because I don't like people, but I always kind of advocate for, talking to the veterans, being a veteran, reach out to that buddy that nobody talks to or you haven't talked to in a while. Obviously, I'm, for other reasons, some of my past things, but with this situation, there's always somebody that that lives alone, or there might be two people and they're older or whatever that you can call. You're sitting at home, you have that extra time, reaching out and doing that little positive thing, even if it's one of those ladies that talks way too much, and just to give them that touch of community, I guess. I don't know what to call it, but just to do that, if you have kids at home, instead of letting them sit on Xbox for hours, make them call grandma, make them call, Uncle Bob or whoever, doing those small things, where you actually have that communication and that insight that people are out there. They do think about you. It doesn't have to be relation. It can be, whatever your guys you used to work with, retirees, people that are at the diner, whatever, and if you do make calls, also, one of the things I like to do is, I've called the stores before I show up, that kind of thing. I always try to give them compliments, for the people that are working. It's just like, you always give a bigger tip to the waitress in the morning, because, obviously they're there working hard and that kind of stuff. So I think that communication and talking helps out a lot and relieves a lot of stress, because if you're sitting home and nobody calls you, you have a lot more time to dwell and focus on things that might not be so positive. So bringing some light and some outside into somebody's area, doesn't mean you have to visit them or anything like that, or, have answers for them, just kind of an ear. I think that helps out a lot.
That last part there makes a good point too, because we don't necessarily, even in the lockdown time, it's tough to offer the advice, hey, go help somebody when you can't literally go somewhere. But if you got skills on the web and you can help somebody in the area just relay their need to the right people, you don't have to necessarily be able to pull the medical equipment out of your butt. If you go online and find the right phone number for somebody, who doesn't have access to the internet. You can be useful, right? So in other words, keeping ourselves useful, helping others is always a good idea for keeping our minds off of stuff, I guess. What I happen to think there is, just got done closing down gun channels like 5 minutes before all this stuff started. How necessary would it, or how nice would it be if we had a channel, if we had an infrastructure that would allow Second Amendment firearms related people to be able to talk to each other, that wasn't platform dependent, that wasn't tied up in a Facebook or a YouTube or anything specific, but maybe just some sort of I don't know, like the old days, you'd have like a newsletter, a piece of paper that went out to everybody or something, but some way to keep people united, because think about all the people that showed up to Virginia. That was boots on the ground, right? That was people that assembled due to Second Amendment activism. What if, we needed these people to help at whatever triage or help with, where people are needed. In this case, we don't need people, but to mobilize resources, it would certainly be neat for the Second Amendment to have infrastructure that would allow us to be useful for this kind of situation, keep us all busy. And I think there's a certain amount of ease that you have by being plugged in, right? When you're part of the infrastructure in some way, helping or supplying, or you're aware, you're tied in a little bit more than just listening to the end of a radio or TV. Any other suggestions? Go ahead. Yes.
So I just wanted to take a second and actually ask Mike Sadini to talk a little bit, because you've really been on my mind. The work that you're doing has really been on my mind since all of this started, because, people are fearful of being out of work. They're actually out of work. We have families that are being quarantined together in tight spaces, and tensions can definitely rise. The anxiety can definitely cause some frustration, anger, depression, all kinds of things. And the work you're doing, when you talk about the Second Amendment community putting in some infrastructure, Pete, what Mike is doing with Walk the Talk America is such needed and important infrastructure for that mental health piece, and to give people the tools they need with the self-assessment, the anonymous self-assessment and all of that. So talk to us a little bit, Mike, about that work, and are you seeing a surge of people coming to the website? And if not, then we all here need to be driving some traffic in that direction, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl, by the way. Yeah, there's a bump in it, actually. So we have free and anonymous mental health screenings. There's about 13 of them. If you go to WTTA.org/love, you'll find them up there. But to answer your question, Cheryl, yes, the anxiety screening is blowing up. It's ahead of everything else. I've been telling people it's a good place to go just to check on your overall mental health while you're doing this, right? Take some time to go there and take all the screenings. I mean, unless they don't apply, right? But it doesn't hurt to find out where you're at or how you see yourself. I think it's a good thing. I think connectiveness is important. The gentleman touched on that earlier. Simple text to people. Hey, how you hanging in there? Is it good? Unfortunately, I'm in a place where tourism and the service industry are the main, it's how people make their money, and we're shut down right now. So it's important to really check in with people. The other thing that I'm suggesting to a lot of people is Khan Academy online. They have, free courses that you can take and get information. It's khanacademy.org. Learn a trade or, research something, get a skill during these downtimes. I think that's super important.
Yeah, come out of it stronger. It keeps you busy, and then you're communicating with others. Probably. I mean, there's not very many skills you're going to learn today by yourself. You're going to end up going online and being in chats to ask questions. Or
I just want to chime in about this. I've got my day job as a school teacher, and my schools have been all shut down for a few weeks. So I'm certainly concerned about how this is going to end up with coming out of my job, and I'm trying to find ways to learn new things online. But I'm also taking some time to say, all right, well, this is good for me to maybe learn a couple of different skills, and maybe to work out a little bit and connect with people, and try to find new ways to help myself to come out of this and still have some sort of value that I can offer people, that they'll turn around and say, hey, listen, we want to give you, whether it's certificates of appreciation with that's green pieces of paper with dead presidents on it, or whatever. It's a good opportunity to learn how to do some other stuff, like you said. And I'd like to think I'm doing it every day, but it doesn't necessarily happen that way.
Well, it's tough when you don't have an end, right? And that's got to be, I think, one of the things that's getting people so stressed. If it was like, hey, we're used to this. This is the end. This is the flu week, or this is the epidemic halting month that we do every once in a while when this happens. Everybody would have hunkered down and been ready and had their stuff planned out. And yeah, they'd been like, this is the month I do my cleanse, or this is the month I do my spring cleaning. Everybody kind of went into it out of nowhere. But I think what Cycle Camp kind of hit on there was something I hadn't thought about yet. But as CCW holders, as anybody who has firearms, we're probably at least some level of prepper. At least people who don't have firearms, we consider all of us preppers, right? We've got to have a little bit better mindset. Going back to the original premise of the show, speaking with people with that are stressed out or dealing with the pressure. Does anybody have any techniques for us? Maybe I was thinking, listening to a lot of these videos today. It's all, you're telling people who have stress, it's all about inside of your head. It's not the outside world that's creating pressure. It's your reaction to it that's causing pressure. Is it us? Maybe we need to chill, or maybe people like myself that are attempting to talk to people now need to chill and just let people stress. Is it just like a teapot? You just got to let it go and come and figure out how to deal with it after? Or is there some advantage to attempting to calm people down or have conversations now?
Well, this is KD. I believe that it never hurts to have conversation, and kind of piggybacking off with what they just got through discussing. It kind of ties into what the question you're asking now. With the time that you have, if all they can do is sit and stew and stress and guess what's coming next, then they're going to lose their freaking minds, right? So not only should you not be doing that, what I would like for people to do is stop, slow down, lock your doors. That way you feel safe and secure in your home, and really think about what inside of your home right now that you can control that could make your family life better. So if you have brothers, sisters, husband, wife, kids, whatever the case may be, whoever you're quarantined with, how's that relationship? Because the world keeps us all busy. We're ripping and running. Many of us work multiple jobs. We have several things we're doing. We're always ripping and running. One of the positive consequences of this time, unfortunately, is the fact that you can take that time to reinvest into your family life. You can take this time to rejuvenate who you are, to replenish who you are, get back to knowing who you are. I've seen comments online where people were like, seriously, like, oh, I'm just getting to know my wife again after 3 years. Not because they haven't talked to her, just because, they're trying to provide and pay bills and things like that. So I think you can distract from the stress on the outside world by focusing on what's going inside your own internal world. As far as worrying about the other things that might be coming your way, what the government's going to do or what this next week looks like, I think it's to a point that we all need to realize that we have no control over that. Yeah, the scientists can't control the virus. The best thing they can tell us to do is stay away from each other, be smart that way the thing falls dead in the air. Well, if that's the case, let's take wisdom. Let's be smart about the way we apply it, but you can't help it. You have to realize you can't control it. Only thing you can do is be ready, be as prepared as you can, and react to the information that you're given. So there's no reason, gun owner or not a gun owner, there's no reason to worry about what's to come. The one thing I would tell gun owners to be responsible with is that, yes, you own a firearm, whether you bought one during these recent times or you've been owning one for 40 years. Yes, you have a firearm now. Do yourself and everybody else around you a favor. Stop telling them how much they suck and how much they're going to be a victim of crime because they don't. Because what that is causing is people to be in a unnecessary mode of panic. That is causing everybody to feel like, oh, I should have did this, I should have did that. And they're gonna be stressed out until as soon as somebody, walks past them too close. they're going to respond in a way because they feel like they're vulnerable. They feel like they're, you know, a bunny rabbit in a pool full of alligators, right? So make sure that you aren't passing fear alone. You aren't giving them something else to fear. If somebody reaches out to you and say, hey man, I didn't get a gun in this time, what am I to do? Hey man, you know what? If you're feeling scared, you know, go out for your resources in the daytime. When you go back home, make sure you lock your doors, set your alarm to stay mode. You know, if there's somebody close to you, hey, do you need my help coming over to make sure your windows are good and locked? Something like that to make them feel better. You don't need to start wagging your finger in their face now, letting them know that they made a mistake and they're going to be the first victim. That's not a smart thing to do. It just causes panic.
Here. You know, this is not the time to be playing told you so, told you so, told you so.
Right.
Excellent points.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to a lot of my friends who I knew recently bought a gun, and I just said, hey, if you ever want some training, you can come with me. I have an awesome club where we will be by ourselves, so we can, you know, work on whatever you want. I mean, most of the fear that I see from like my friends and family is more the virus related, because, you know, we all got older parents and, you know, whatnot, or young kids, because I'm in my mid 30s. I don't really see too many people like freaking out about guns and stuff in the people that I know.
Well, yeah, like in the stores haven't hit the crazy level where they're barren. Like people haven't freaked out yet. So I think it's mostly the gun owners who are aware of the firearms thing.
And sorry, my internet went down, so that's why I was zero dark 30 for 10 minutes.
One of the other things that you might want to focus on too is as long as you're staying calm, you know, your kids are going to see that. Your kids are going to stay calm. You know, your wife's going to stay calm or whatever. You know, the people that are around you, if they see you, you know, looking around like you're a crazy person and, you know, worrying about this and worrying about that, and you're wearing all that stuff on your sleeve, I think that will promote a lot of that other unnecessary, you know, the stress, you know. So if you're like that chiller in the casino that, you know, cools a table or whatever they call it, you know, just stay calm, you know, even if you're not, you know, I mean, you can be worried about things but not show it to everybody on the street.
We're not hearing you, Tony. I muted you before, sorry. Tony, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you. I muted you. There you go. Nope. Can I unmute him? You're muted still, Tony.
No.
You're not hearing him. Are you guys hearing him?
Which is a pleasure.
Jump back in. Sorry, Tony. I screwed it up before. Appreciate everybody tolerating the tube, but it lets us have more people in here. So thanks to Night Strike, Mike, for running the tube for us.
Hello. Yep, I'm back. All right. Yeah, I'm still working. I'm still at work, so I work in the prison, if people didn't know. And of course, I'm known as the gun guy. So a lot of people who don't own firearms, and again, know I'm the gun guy, have come up to me, you know, and they're stressing, again, about not owning a firearm. Can
I interrupt you?
Go ahead.
Have they considered just sending all your clients home and because letting them social?
Actually, they have done social distancing in the prison, and it is weird, to say the least. Just dumb stuff is happening, but they're figuring it out as it goes along. But the guys in the work are stressing, and I'm like, yo, bro, look, nothing is happening right now. Calm down. All right? I totally understand. And but we're not to that point yet that you need to walk around strapped. I'm like, just take it easy. If you didn't think you needed a gun before, you don't need one right now. And just do other things. And then we talk about that, you know, how to secure your home, how not to make your house look like it's empty when you're not there, and just different things like that. Because a lot of these guys are stressing because they know what may happen is they might lock us in. They might keep us at work 24/7. We still don't know where we're at with that. So that's what's happening with these dudes. But I'm like, you can't control that. So they're just trying to figure out what to do in the worst case scenario. And again, if you can't change it, if you can't affect it, you can't do anything about it. So stop stressing.
I just want to chime in. I talked to a friend of mine about a month ago, and he is he's a musician. He's liberally oriented, and we got into a talk about him wanting to go shooting. And I said, absolutely, I'm up for you for going shooting, and you should. He's like, I'm whatever, of a certain age. I've never shot a gun before, and I just want to. And I'm like, that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with it. And he's like, but I'm diametrically opposed to everything that you're for. And I'm like, well, I get you, but I still think you should be able to have a gun to be able to protect yourself. And this is before any of this stuff happened. And I messaged him the other day, and he's like, I can't get a gun license. I can't take a class, so I can't get a gun until all this is done. But he's like, I can go to Cabela's or someplace and get some pepper spray. And that's that would work too.
Yeah, let them get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
whatever the
right. There's something. Yes, there is something, and he wants to be a little more comfortable with, having the ability to protect himself. He did go out and buy a couple of folding knives, and he wants to have something to protect himself, and I get it, and that's cool, and good for him for taking some steps and saying, all right, well, you might need to do something, and it's good to have a plan. So I congratulated him for that, and he can't take a class and get a gun until this is all done.
Now, we're going to have to assume that everything's going to go back to normal at some point. There's going to be an after, and it's going to be an appropriate time. That's a golden opportunity, right? To address those issues, those feelings that he had, those concerns. And then now what would you have done if 6 people were knocking at the door, wondering if you had water or pills or who knows what, and all you had was a knife behind the door? We're not crazy, and we don't think the government is knocking on our door, but we're concerned when the government doesn't, we don't have to talk about that. But I think that's another thing that we could talk about tonight potentially is that. I was going to wait till about the hour. We're getting to about that hour. I don't want to disregard the idea of dealing with people who are stressed. If there's other ideas or strategies, Sandhills just jumped in. Feel free to address those, but we've got some time maybe to talk about how we can bank some of these potential opportunities, so that after, there's martial law being at least suggested, if not imposed. There's all kinds of craziness. We definitely see lines, 4473s. I think we've got such potential, such opportunity in the after. Is it appropriate to talk about that now, or is it putting the cart before the horse? What do you think?
I don't think it's inappropriate to talk about it now. That's one of the things that I've noticed in the Second Amendment firearms community, if you will. I know a couple of people that have training classes and schools where they teach people how to properly use firearms, and they're offering free classes right now, just because they know that there's so many first-time buyers out there. And what I've noticed is all these people who disregarded us yesterday and had disdain toward us yesterday because of our belief in the Second Amendment and our Constitution, when they come to us for help, we're not turning them away. Now, can we say the same thing? If we needed their help, would they treat us the same way? I would hope so, but we don't know. We're in a situation now where, somebody said it earlier, our character is being revealed. And when the anti-gunners are coming to us looking for advice, looking for tips, how do you do this? Buy a gun. Which one should I get? And we're not telling them, get out of my face, you should have figured that out your own. We're bringing them in and saying, let me teach you. And very potentially, when this is all over, they're going to turn on us again. But it shows that we care.
I think it absolutely shows that we care. I've seen some people that are offering free information, whether it's dry fire practice or gun safety, or what do you do now that you're a new gun owner. I see a lot of people doing this, and I'm going to spend some time tomorrow trying to figure out how I can set something up and do some Zoom video so other people can, get in touch with me and say, hey, listen, if I wanted to learn how to, now that I'm a new gun owner, how do I dry fire? How do I do this? How do I take care of that? And I think it's great. I mean, I've seen probably 4 or 5 different instructors that are the big name instructors that have been putting out, okay, so you're a new gun owner. What do you do? How do you handle this? How do you handle that? And I think it's great. If they come back and turn on us later because they really have whatever anti-gun thoughts and feelings, then that's okay. Then we can buy their guns at a discount price, hopefully.
And I actually took my ex-wife's boyfriend to the range. He actually approached me. They did about using firearms and stuff, because they obviously know I have my collection or whatever, and they were interested in something. They're actually both veterans, and so it was kind of interesting. But I took them. I had no issue. I supplied the ammo. Went to the indoor range, and had actually a really great time. So, it doesn't mean you have to be an instructor. I mean, we all know the safety, and, you just have to be an ambassador. I think it's more of just being that calm person that, don't roll your eyes or, do any of that insensitive stuff until they leave. But definitely, it's all attitude, I think.
I would say that right now we have a huge opportunity, kind of like we did at Lobby Day in Virginia and with every rally really across the country. But we've got an opportunity right now to show all of the anti-gun people and all of the new formerly anti-gun people that are new gun owners what we've all already known. The gun community as a whole is really friendly. We're very welcoming. We're very open. And if anybody needs help, we're all willing to give some advice and lend a hand, do all that kind of stuff. I really see it as an opportunity right now just to not only, grow the numbers of new gun owners, which Situation is doing that already, but just to kind of cement the bond and let, all the new gun owners know that they don't have to do anything special to be part of the family. We're all in this together. We all want to help each other out. We really don't hate the people that hate us, or most of us don't anyway. So it's a great way to either build the bridges or just, firm up those foundations for the bridges that were already being built, I think.
I think my only concern
And
is...
too, it's...
Go ahead, boss.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I can wait.
I think my
You
only...
sure? It's so weird. You go ahead. I'm not going to talk.
I think my only concern is, like, most of the people that I know that are anti-gun, or if they're okay with guns, but they're only okay with certain guns, most of them concern is not the government. It's some kid, shooting up a school or something in that case. I don't know how we use this to help them understand, all the rights you get with the Second Amendment, because they're not. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you so Katie can jump in there, but I'm going to interrupt you and say how we do that is we say, look, all these people that bought guns, where's the violence? Where's the chaos in the streets? Where's the actual violence? You're concerned about something, but there's even more guns on the street. So your concern isn't reinforced by history.
Yeah, where are the toilet paper shootouts?
Yeah, but they don't care about that.
I hear you, but that's just my answer. But Katie.
Well, yeah, I think the one thing that we have to take advantage of is the fact that we don't have to say anything. But I mean, really, if you think about it, now I'm not saying that we don't help. I myself, I moonlight at Missouri's newest and nicest facility, 3 years running in the state. So we get a ton of business through that place. And I went up for free. And I was there about 7 hours, right during the middle of this rush. And I answered questions and, did all the right things. I offered free tips, got on videos with people the whole 9 yards. And the one thing that I noticed is, everyone, there was not one person that I helped that had owned a gun. And I probably that day in 5 hours of my time there, probably sold about 25 to 35 firearms. Just me. And it was like 12 of us running around, right? So during that time, everybody would approach me like, hey, I've never owned a gun. I don't like them. They all got these different stories. And their humility did all the talking for me. The only thing I had to do is be professional. That's all I had to do is be professional, listen to their concerns, address their concerns, let them know like, hey, we have limited inventory. I wish this would have happened earlier for a different reason, but this is the best way I can guide you. Hey, what is your budget like? Who's at home with you so I can give you some safety tips. But they came with hat in hand. And it was my opportunity just to say, okay, let me help you and let me not even throw it back in your face. I don't have to because you have egg on your face now. All I have to do is reach out, be a resource, and help. And in that, we got tons of compliments. It's really nice. Even one guy said to a few of us, like, I just knew I was going to come here and get beat up on. I knew I was going to come here and get beat up on because he admitted that he hates guns and anybody that carries them until this happened. And he's like, no, you guys were nothing but nice. You were nothing but kind. I'm sorry for ever judging you. Like, that was his testimony. So as long as we're nice, decent people and providing information and educating to new owners, we don't have to say you made a mistake. They know it. They knew it when it happened and they needed a gun.
That brings up something nice too, that you don't have to, as long as you are professional and you're polite and you give a positive view, all those people that you talk to, they have people that they talk with and that have certain clout with their friends or whatever, and know that, oh, this guy doesn't like firearms, but whoa, he's talking that, he had a good experience, etc. That multiplies.
And the good thing is, it doesn't matter, KD, if you were selling them a firearm or a toothbrush, you're still going to be respectful and courteous and helpful to them. And that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Guys, I got to jump off, so I just want to say thank you again for having me on, Pete, and I love seeing everybody. I miss you guys. All of our events got canceled.
Miss you too.
So I appreciate you all for the work you're doing, and keep it up. We'll talk soon.
Thanks again.
See you later, Cheryl.
Jump back Thursday if you have a chance. So that'll give me a chance to play hoster at the top of the hour. I wanted to go for, let's say, 2 hours at max. So we got another hour we can go here for. And like I say, we can, the topic, the reason for getting everybody together is to talk about strategies of dealing with people who are stressed out and talking with people during the panic, and alternatively or secondly, dealing with Second Amendment awareness during all of this, and how we might be able to capitalize on it after the fact. So with that, I know we've been kind of all over the place, and there's a lot of people in here. If anybody has anything kind of banked that they wanted to chat about, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we did have a question earlier that was addressed in the text, but I wanted to let Mike have a chance to address it, just so that in case anybody had that concern that might be just listening as a podcast or something and didn't read the chat. Bass Boy had asked earlier about the mental health screening over at Walk the Talk America's website. He asked, will that affect someone's Second Amendment doing that screening?
No, it won't at all. And I'm sorry, but when I try to go to the chat, it cuts everything off and I can't hear anybody anymore. So I figured you guys would let me know if there's something in there, but it's absolutely free and anonymous. You don't have to put any information in there. You don't want to. It will ask you a couple questions, but you don't even have to answer those. But it's just basically to get some demographic information, but it's 100% anonymous. And to go further with that, the organization that I've partnered with is called Mental Health America, and they are the longest, oldest running mental rights health organization. They do not believe that if you have depression or you have anxiety, or when you were, 6 years ago when you were in a breakup and you needed to seek help because your world was devastated, that you shouldn't be able to own a firearm. So I hope that helps people understand who we are. We fight for the rights of everyone to have their Second Amendment rights. So.
Right on. Thanks for addressing that. And since we're talking about it, again, feel free, anybody who wants to throw another point out there, but I thought it was interesting. I was listening, I think, to a Riding Shotgun with Charlie. actually. So I got both of you guys in here, so I can say thanks to both of you guys. For Charlie for doing your series, your podcast. You interview Second Amendment advocates. Mike obviously is one. And when I was listening to that show, you had brought up that you attended something with some doctors, and because they weren't gun owners, they weren't shooters, they didn't realize the hang-ups or the perceptions that gun owners have with the perception that we might lose our rights, which is justified. I'm not saying it's a paranoia or anything, but we have a justified concern, like you just mentioned. But you brought that to the attention of these doctors who never knew it. And I can't even imagine, but you assume that everybody is on the same path or everybody's on the same wavelength, and your efforts have, that's just one example, I imagine, but that's I think a great way to illustrate what the benefits of what you're doing. Thanks for that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. The class, it's a class that we put on. As a matter of fact, our next class was supposed to be in Vegas because we are going to take this thing nationwide, but we bring mental health professionals into the range, and for everybody that's listening to the show or on this panel, it's gun 101, right? Like we would know all this stuff if we were just sitting there in the class, but it's fun because we get to bring them into the world, and they get to, there's no stupid question, right? So just ask anything. I go on there. I started off by talking about, the first time that I shot a firearm, how I probably needed to be wearing my brown pants, right? Like things like that, because it is a nerve-wracking experience. And that is one of the things we found, is that there was a lot of these mental health professionals that were saying, we didn't even realize you were afraid. So, they had to rethink the way that they asked the firearms question to, the people that they treat. And that's what you find when, you don't communicate, right? Like that's the importance of communication in a civil manner, because I was able to explain, it's a huge fear of ours. And I was watching some of them, and keep in mind, there are certain states like New York and New Jersey where, if you tell the wrong therapist something, that it can affect you. But for the most part, because of HIPAA, because of the fact that they could lose their license, most of these therapists cannot take your firearms. There is no bat phone, but it's fun to bring them into the range, have them shoot, and then and understand our fears, so they can kind of reshape, reframe the way that they ask those questions. And then some of them have also put in their profiles, like on Psychology Today, 2A friendly, gun culture friendly, saying like, hey, we don't care that you own firearms. We don't care that you use firearms as stress relief. You can come in here and say it. And that's something that I'm proud of.
Right on. And that they know that they can be, that they can let people know that they're aware, and then we don't acknowledge what that means. And I think that if you never played golf before, you'd look at a golf club, a bag of golf clubs, and you'd go, this guy's obsessed with these things. How many does he need, right? Like, is he rich or what? Then you play golf and you realize there's different use for each one. If no one's ever gone shooting, and who knows what perception they have. Again, I think that's got to be useful when you take them to the range and you show them there's a difference between shooting way over there and shooting really close. And there's a difference between that kind of handgun and that one. All of a sudden, they might understand why somebody has 6 guns, and that's not necessarily an arsenal of paranoia or something, right? Sorry, I cut you off, Tony.
No, it's really funny that Mike brought this up. Talk about the doctor thing. I have a friend of mine who worked at the jail with me, worked at the prison, and he's a gun owner. He's from PA, but, he works in Jersey, and he wanted to take some official, classes. He wanted to take an actual class on gun safety. So myself and my partner, Sean, we brought him and a lot of the other psychs and psychiatrists from work into a class, and shooting guns and stuff. And he came to our rifle class, pistol class, shotgun class. So I shot him an email 2 weeks ago. And there was a question about this. A friend of mine said, we're going through counseling, my wife and I want to know, is there a psych we can talk to that won't report me over my gun, the fact that I own a lot of guns. So I reached out to him, and he was like, I never even thought of that as a subject. He said, I never thought gun owners would worry about that. And he's a gun owner. It's just he doesn't, he goes to the range by himself, shoots a target and leaves. He doesn't have the conversations that we have when we all hang out together. Like he was like, I've never even thought about that. So it is truly amazing because, again, this is a gun owner That's a psychiatrist that never thought about how much gun owners worry about someone reporting on us based on their own bias, maybe, and just saying this guy's a gun nut because he has over 1,000 rounds of 22.
I want to chime in a little bit. And first of all, Pete, thanks for saying that you watch the show. I really appreciate that. Michael, I used to have a therapist that I would go to on a regular basis a number of years ago. I ran into him recently, and he came up to me. He said he likes watching Riding Shotgun, and he really enjoyed the show with you because as a mental health professional that works with people and talks with people, he completely knows what it's like to talk to people that need help, that need to talk to someone, but aren't a threat because they have a gun. And he was very excited to talk about that and to say that if there's something he could do, he would be totally interested in doing it.
That's awesome. Charlie, for letting me know that. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Tony had something, but I completely forgot what it is, so I'm gonna go mute.
Oh, Tony's a forgettable person. So this is something that that I would add. So Mike's heard me talk about this several times. I don't know if you guys have, and I'll make it short. But look, for anybody out there that's thinking that addressing your mental concerns is going to prohibit you from being a gun owner, okay? So here's a firearm, all right? There are a few more of them laying around me right now, just to bring relevance into what I'm about to say, okay? Guns, all right? That being said, because of my childhood and upbringing, for roughly 10 to 12, 13 years, I struggled heavily with clinical depression and anxiety, right? So that was one of my testimonies that I give out, and I give way more details about how I arrived at that place as a young kid into a teenager and dealt with it into my early 20s, and then everything after that was just making sure I sustained it, made sure I was okay, learning tips, learning tricks to keep myself calm, and just, knowing how to maintain myself. And still now to this day, even though that stuff is far removed from my life, still to this day, about once a month, I go talk to a counselor. Not because anything is wrong, but it's just my way of making sure nothing does go wrong. It's just my way of going in, having having a person to talk to, making sure that even though I've had this thing under control for a decade and some change now, let's make sure that there is nothing that allows me to be put in a position where it sneaks up on me and I don't see it coming. But if you're scared to go talk to someone, I want you to get over that, because if you don't go talk to someone, the guns don't have to come to play at all. You will slowly decay on the inside because you're not getting help. Mental health is, one can argue, it's this equivalent to physical health. I would say it's kind of more important in a way, but it's at least equivalent to your physical health. I mean, if your heart's not beating right, you're going to go see a doctor, right? If you break your leg, you're going to go see a doctor. Well, if your mind is not healthy, then it's going to continue to go downhill. You need to focus on self first and go get some attention. And then there are smart ways to do it. Obviously, Walter Talk America has a great way for you to start. They also guide you to professionals in your area. But trust me, nobody is going to intentionally set you up to have your rights taken away. But gentlemen like Mike are out here running these programs to make sure that you are set up to make sure you have a healthy mind, so you can go back and love all the things that you want to love, including yourself, that you are using the guns to protect, right? The same way you're using a gun to protect your family and your kids and your neighbors. The same thing with you. You need to be okay for you can still be available to protect all the things and love all the things that you're hoping that gun physically secures. So go get yourself checked out.
Appreciate that, Kevin.
No problem, sir. Mike paid me to say that, so I was obligated.
You taking Venmo?
Yes, sir. But it's serious. I love the work he does, and it's underrated, and I believe that more people should take advantage of it. I wish there was somebody out there doing that when I was a young kid and started to encounter firearms. I wish that there was somebody out doing the work he's doing now. So take advantage of it. Don't be scared.
And what you're working on is removing barriers so that both ends, so that the gun owners, we know the playing field, and that as doctors are aware of our side of it, they'll remove things or make sure to make it clear when things are iffy for us, right? So hopefully it smooths the waters for everybody.
Yeah, one thing, just to add to that.
Sandhills, you had something.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but one thing I wanted to add to that is it's the stuff that we're doing. I'm very proud of it in terms of for us as the Second Amendment community, because we help a lot of people that, especially the trainers on here that come to the Second Amendment community to learn. But I'm out there with a lot of anti-gun people, and quite frankly, I love shutting them up, showing them that we do things that they never thought we cared about doing. So it's something that I think as the 2A community, we could wear as a badge to say, we do more than you, or we do what you don't think we do. It blows people away sometimes. I've talked to doctors and mental health professionals that have just been, they're like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. I really like this. And it kind of changes the narrative about us, at the same time, which is something I think is absolutely fantastic. So.
Love it. Before I let Sandhills in, which I was going to, I'm going to try to get this across, but it's mental health, right? So that's something that for this, what was I going to say? For this situation, it's kind of too late. But after the fact, we can, look at it, and being prepared with bullets, being prepared with beans, and being prepared with bandages is all important. But having a mental state of mind, and having the tough times will pass, but tough men, tough people continue. This is going to be something that we're all going to be able to look at with hindsight and judge how we went into it mentally, right? And I know, and this is what I'm trying to get across, it can be frustrating, like everyone has mentioned, when you don't have ultimate control over a situation like we've got. But what Mike has done, he's started stuff, and it's frustrating that it isn't already working. We want to go from 0 to 100. We want to already have systems in place, right? But Mike started this stuff last year, and it started. So this whole thing could have happened 6 years ago, and we wouldn't have inroads. We wouldn't have the starts of stuff. So when it can look frustrating, let's not forget about the stuff that's starting, the crystals that are still forming, right? Yeah. Okay, Sandhills, you wanted to bring something up. I'll quit interrupting you.
Well, I was just, and this is completely shifting gears now, but everybody on the panel, we've pretty well got a good cross-section from one end of the country to the other, and I'm just kind of curious, all across the land, has anybody seen an uptick in the general realization that the Second Amendment protects the other freedoms that we have? Without it, those are easily taken away from us, especially with the uptick in new gun ownership and first-time gun buyers. I mean, what is everybody else seeing where you are? I haven't got a chance to talk to a whole lot of people around here lately, but where you are, and some of you are dealing with, new gun owners on a daily basis, are more and more people starting to get it, I guess, is my question.
I'd like to take a swing at that here from up in Connecticut. What I think has happened when people decided that they needed to exercise their rights to go get firearms to protect themselves and their families, they were amazed to find out that they needed permits, that they needed training, that they needed licenses, and that they couldn't get them because the government closed access to the people who processed the permits as part of the crisis. And it was a very telling problem. So people are there trying to buy guns. They can't get the phone call. People that already had permits couldn't get the phone calls through to NICS because NICS was overloaded, or because they weren't in Connecticut. They don't actually use the federal system. They use their own system. And that system, they had told those people to go home because they weren't mission critical. So it's becoming, I think it had become, and of course you'll never see anything on the mainstream media about this, but I've seen a lot of stuff in my social media of people saying, wow, I had no idea that these gun laws that we let everybody pass and these regulations we let everybody enforce were going to have this kind of an impact to me when we're in a difficult kind of crisis situation. So obviously, I think Kevin said it very well earlier. It's not time to say, ha, 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 I told you so. But this is something that the next time I go to the legislative office building to try to talk about laws like this, I'm going to say, hey, remember the impact this had on our people when they were trying to protect themselves during the coronavirus problem, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think this has opened some eyes. A lot of people that were on the fence, someone mentioned earlier, hardened, I hate guns. Well, maybe I need to get one now. I think it really opened a lot of eyes to the stuff that we in the Second Amendment community have been putting up with for quite a while.
I think it creates a scenario or an environment where they can set the stage, right? When the gun prohibitionists suggest that gun owners are fearful of their government, they set some scenario where the government, is running in and taking our guns from us, and that somehow everything that we do to protect our rights is some fear of the government coming and taking it, and we need to have bigger and bigger guns against the government. This is showing us that the biggest of governments couldn't protect everyone when there's something like this, a universal adversary against mammals or adversary against humanity, right? This isn't a situation that I think is normally addressed with the prohibitionists. So I think the fact that they're purchasing, or the fact that they're purchasing and there's peace, I think we have the best opportunity we've ever had in all of time, at least as long as I've been aware and all the stuff I've researched. I can't imagine a better point in history where we can show to them that we're not fearful of the redcoats. We're not fearful of the ATF. We're fearful of a time when the government doesn't have the resources to provide for everything. And there's countries like Mexico. I live an hour from Mexico. At what point do the cartels figure out there's nothing to stop them from raiding the stuff in the border towns? I guess getting into that might be a little bit too paranoid, but when the government doesn't have resources to protect everyone, there's some comfort in having the ability to
and you make a good point, G, and I guess to kind of build on that, how many municipal police departments around the country have already announced, or maybe it wasn't a formal announcement, but how many police departments are already saying, we're not going to respond to this theft or that crime or this nonviolent act right now? So basically, if there's not already a bad person with a gun in your face, the cops aren't going to care because they're not going to risk exposure right now either in a lot of places. And I'm not trying to come down on the cops. I back the blue. I get it. I don't want anybody else to get sick. But our point is that the police already aren't required by law to protect us. Now they're saying that in order to preserve themselves, they can do even less, or they're willing to do even less than they had been. So again, it's kind of fallen back on us to make sure that we all stay peaceful, right, within ourselves.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
So here in the Northwest, I don't know if our lefties are different than they are in other areas, because we have such a huge presence of Antifa and the Democratic Socialist Party and whatnot. So I have friends who are Marxist professors. They're not anti-gun. They're just anti-gun certain people owning them. And I mean, they're saying why we're having this issue is because we're not a communist country, because our government is not able to take care of us like they think they should. And they're definitely anti-free speech. And so I haven't seen much of a shift on people who believe those type of things, because they weren't really anti-gun. They know they're going to need guns to start their revolution, and then once that their form of government's in place, that's when they'll want to take your guns away. That way you can't then destroy the revolution that they brought forth.
I think the easier argument to make is the self-defense argument. Because, I mean, any of us could sit around and listen to somebody talking about the government coming in and raiding your house in the middle of the night, and most of us will be like, come on, really? Are you serious? But if you're talking about a bad guy out on the street doing bad things that you need to protect your kids, your wife, your husband, or whatever it may be, that's an easier argument to make as to why you shouldn't be infringing on the Second Amendment. Maybe the Washington, D.C. is not coming after me today, but I live right outside Baltimore. So what's the chances of me just getting caught up in something or getting chosen to be robbed next or whatever it might be. So the self-defense argument, I think, is an easier argument to make.
Yeah, I would suggest that you.
It's a lot different than it must be in a city. I can't even imagine what's going through people's minds in a highly populated part of the country right now.
I would just suggest, the people that you find out are new gun owners, regardless if you think they're middle or anti-gun, whatever. Keep track of those people and bring it up to them off and on. Say, hey, this summer when things calm down or whatever, hey, I will take you out and we can go through and I can show you some other things, or we can possibly get your wife to come, or whatever. But keep that contact, and possibly try to schedule, or at least keep it in mind for them to keep it in mind, that you want to continue with it, so that it doesn't just get thrown in a drawer and then they forget about it and then they go back to buying their jackets with the leather patches on their sleeves.
Or voting against us, right? Like it's ours to lose if we ignore it.
That's
right?
part of it. Once you get them in kind of that motion of hey, this isn't bad. I kind of enjoy this. That's when not in the heat of this craziness or whatever, but when you have something scheduled that's kind of removed from this, and you bring up, hey, they are pushing for X law or this or that or limits on this, that might be able to kind of help out, move them in a more pro direction, maybe.
I just want to make a quick comment. It's a little off topic, but I just find it amazing that the progressive left, whenever there's a crisis, that's the time that they double down. That's the time they get on you. That's the time they try to pass all this stuff. It's just amazing how the conservative side of it has the total opposite take on it. Hey, we're in the middle of a crisis. We need to hunker down. We need to help our neighbors. Let's not try to push our agenda at this time. Let's just try to get through this. And I just think it's just I love the fact that we're like this, that it's not, hey, here's a chance, let's really stick it to them, that kind of thing. It just seems to me that people on the conservative, I'll use that loosely, the liberal side and the 2A side have that mindset. I just love the fact that we have that mindset.
Staying with the same theme, I trust everybody here has heard about HR 5717 that Hank Johnson wants to push through, and it's the biggest. It's all the anti-gun stuff rolled into one big, long, huge bill, and I've only seen, I'm going to say 2-3 people make videos about it. I saw Tim from the military channel. I saw Colion Noirs and Guns and Gadgets. I haven't heard anyone else say anything about this, and it's everything: magazine capacity restriction, assault weapon bans. It's universal background checks. It's the whole kit and caboodle that they're trying to get through while everyone's concerned about not catching this virus.
I would like to point out that there's more Republicans backing that than there are Democrats. Or if I'm looking at the same, hold on. What's the bill number?
I think it's HR 5717.
Yeah, that's it. I actually talked about that on my podcast this week that I'm going to be releasing. And yeah, it is. It's a problem. And everybody's talking about this virus, or everybody's talking about, the flugaloo or flugaloo. But I'm like, look, this, nothing is stopping this. This is still rolling on, and we have to shut it down. We have to get active. In New Jersey, here's the problem: what's happening with people who are anti-gun here and trying to panic buy a firearm. It takes longer to do the paperwork. By the time their paperwork got in, they shut down the ability to do background checks. So now they're being denied this right. More than likely, nothing will happen. These people won't ever need a firearm, hopefully, and this is over quickly. and we go back to normal. And I feel those very same people that were in a panic, that were anti-gun, that, you know, were mom's demand and voted against our rights, are going to go, see, something horrible happened and we didn't need these anyway. I was just panicky. Thank goodness I couldn't buy a gun then, because who knows what would have happened. You know, because I'm 7 million times more likely to hurt somebody in my own house with a gun if I had one. I mean, that's what I'm seeing and I'm hoping against here. I hope some people wake up. I hope after this is over, the pro-gun side will be energized, because we'll have a lot of new people that were formerly anti-gun, and we can crush this on some level. That's what I'm hoping for.
I would have liked to have seen.
So I want to make one correction. Sorry, I didn't realize there's 5 bills with that same number. So there's more than one HR 5717.
The one that I'm talking about has a long title. It's like, you know, the comprehensive. The comprehensive gun violence, you know, an act to regulate gun violence and feel good, blah blah blah.
So sorry about that. Yeah, this is all sponsored by 18 Democrats.
Okay, so a couple of things is I think that one of the reasons you're not seeing people address it could be, and I'm not speaking for anybody, I'm just assuming that everybody thinks it's a no-brainer, that it's not, you know, they're never going to be able to pass something that infringing. I think that's one possibility, but I'm going to take this opportunity to do a bit of a plug. And the other frustration I have is that this stress, this time of stress, is showing us that the system that we have right now, where people who are Second Amendment advocates at this point are either individuals like, let's say, John Lott, who writes books and does speaking engagements. I don't know if he gets paid for speaking engagements, but basically he's self-sufficient. You've got people, I guess KD would fall into that. Like, he doesn't have big corporate sponsorships or nothing. He's boots on the ground. You got Tony doing his thing. You got a bunch of people doing their things as individuals. Then you've got, of course, the 3-letter organizations out there, which have a giant increase in memberships, I assume, because of the issues with the NRA and the awareness that has gone on throughout 2019. And then you've got individuals who are efforting as individuals who, well, I guess like everybody, like just same people I just mentioned. And I think that if we rely on the old systems to fund or to create those content creators, we rely on things like YouTube or Instagram success numbers and stuff, then I've said this before, you end up having to follow recipes in order to gain numbers on these platforms. And that is basically appealing to the greatest number of people. And that is not talking about Second Amendment stuff. It's not talking about advocacy. So we do have a couple of the larger players who are focused on advocacy. And once they've attained some size and some momentum, they're able and they're willing to cripple their growth rate by talking about Second Amendment occasionally. But by relying on those few individuals, we definitely lose reach, because that only can reach people that are interested in talking to that. But I'd like to effort, and this is a frustrating time to try to do this, but I'd like to be an advocate towards crowdfunding. The platforms like Patreon have shown us that individuals can venture capital. They can take their resources and fund projects that are valid. Projects like Tony's, and when Tony had the project last year with the giveaways and stuff to incentivize people to join, you know, that gives Tony more resources to do his stuff. So I'd like to see a result of all of this content creation being funded by viewers, and to see the industry come along with something like a Patreon that's, let's just say, bulletproof, pun intended, to some of the vulnerabilities that the other pavement platforms have and the crowdfunding platforms have, depending on if they are in the mood to hate guns or be gun prohibitionists or not. So if the industry, which has a ton of money and it kind of throws it around willy-nilly sometimes, I think we could easily focus on a way to have more solid Second Amendment advocacy stronger. And then we would see focus on the important things at times of stress like this. Because I think what happens is stress happens, everybody has to go into survival mode, And when we rely on a bunch of amateurs, a bunch of hobbyists to be our Second Amendment advocates, they don't have the resources to be advocates. There's very few of us that can pay attention to Second Amendment stuff through all this. If your job is at risk and your future is unknown, do you have the time? Is it smart for you to spend resources on Second Amendment advocacy? So that's probably a reason why we're not seeing a focus on 5717, because we're not running at full speed. And I think it might be unreasonable to expect we would be at an unprecedented time of situation like this one. But again, I'd like to be able to go back in time with like a blink of genie or whatever, and be a stronger community, so that when this happens, not only we're leaders for those who are unprepared, but also completely resistant to something like a 5717 and able to tackle it at the same time as everything else.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point. I've been going back and forth about this for a long time when it comes to stretching out the roots of the Second Amendment and advocacy and freedom and things of that nature. Unfortunately, entertainment is more appealing than education. So it's nothing against anybody who's great at even doing both. But entertaining, no matter what industry, genre, what you do, is more appealing than education. So a lot of individuals that are receiving this information just simply want to be entertained. They don't panic about the need of education until like a bill is about to get to a certain level, and then all of a sudden they want to go into this big panic. For the grassroots organizations all over the country, and obviously talking heavily about Tony's and mine, I believe that people need to understand that outside of social media numbers, you can, and social media is powerful, don't get me wrong. However, when you are really touching people, look, man, in a year alone with no social media, I flipped well over 500 gun owners to pro-gun, from anti to pro. And that's because of boots on the ground. That's because I'm a local resource. It's because I don't mind getting on a plane, showing up, saying the things that haven't been said, present information in a way that hasn't been presented before, doing events that haven't been done before. So when that support is lacking, it does make it harder for grassroots that are helping really push that new growth, along with education, because that's very important, educated gun owners. And the reasons why it becomes very, very challenging, because you'll get, and I'm not knocking this, but maybe there's a duality that can occur. You'll have people like, hey, I'm going to donate $25, $35, $50, $100 to my favorite, big org, and I'm like, cool. Like, man, I love what so and so is doing. What you're doing is so awesome. Cool. How much have you donated in the last 2 years to all of them? Well, none. Well, how do you expect those things to keep going? So I think that if the 2A community wants to see it grow and really grow in a way that it needs to, you're right. You're going to have to get behind some of these grassroots organizations and really fund them and push them. And then the cool thing about grassroots is you can see what they do every single day with the funds they're receiving. There's nowhere to run it. There's nowhere to hide. There are no departments to hide behind and say, hey, we're waiting on finance to approve this thing. There's nobody to hide. You can actually keep them responsible for what they're doing. So I agree.
And I think that's where you got the potential. I have a lot of fun, playing across the internet with my $30 a month on Patreon, and I give $1 here or give $1 there, and if somebody stops doing something, you throw the $1 to somebody else. Yeah, the people get a little more
and
fun.
Something else,
The whole thing.
I need individuals to support what we do. Yankee Marshall stepped in and helped us a lot, and that brought a lot of people to us, and it eased up. It allowed me to go to Vegas to speak in front of the industry there at SHOT Show because people supported what we did. It helped me buy ammo. It took stress off of me for the latest diversity shoot we had, that I didn't worry about how many people came through the door, because I knew I could feed them. I knew they could shoot as many rounds as they wanted to shoot, and I would be able to replenish that, because truthfully, the industry itself is not supporting individual grassroots organizations like they should. Kevin was in the room with me. You were G-Webs. This was the industry event that we had that I spoke at as a panelist, and the room was not full of industry people. That's where it should have been packed. That's where people should have been reaching out. But right now, the industry was in the Trump slump. All of a sudden, they were looking for people to spend money. They were looking for customers and they wanted to talk to advocates to find out how they could reach more people. Well, right now there's panic buying going on and these guys are flush. They have money coming in, people tossing money at them. So do you think they're going to be reaching out to us again until this is over with?
Exactly.
No, they're not. So what I need is individuals that really believe in the Second Amendment advocacy on this level to actually help us out. Because when this
Go ahead. Oh, did he get cut off? I think he got kicked out.
Yeah,
That's an awesome point. And I should have said thanks while Mike and Casey was up on the panel, but thanks to all y'all for doing that. They're talking about a panel that Maj set up at SHOT Show on Tuesday, and it was an opportunity for 18 people to get up on the stage who have ultimate knowledge and awareness of what's going on in Second Amendment, and to let gun shops take the seats in the audience and ask questions about how to expand reach and how to bring people into their shops. And yeah, it was Tony, you brought up I don't know if you're still here or not, but that was an excellent point. And that's again where I'm super frustrated, because I'm thinking about that. The gun shops now are not, they're flush, right? They've sold everything they can sell. And right now there's bottlenecks of paperwork, which we can hopefully use to our advantage in the future. But as far as money goes, they've sold a lot of their inventory. Again, in perfect world, if we would have had a system in place, let's say a gun-friendly Patreon, I don't know what to call it. Let's call it Guntreon for now. If we would have had a gun-friendly thing like that, and they could have gone over to that with some of their extra funds right now, and because it gets frustrating. How many times can you give $30 to the GOA? How many times can you give $30 to FPC? Both valid national level organizations, but there's much more to be done. And having a funding system in place would have been awesome when the shops are flush like this, and they can't go buy guns with it right now. What are they going to advertise? So it'd been great to have some kind of infrastructure in place, but we can look at.
Right. And I would be remiss. Right? I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off, but since you brought up FPC as one of them, there is also.
No, sorry, I'll cut you off. Just never worry about cutting me off. Always.
FPC, I want to give them a special kudos. So. When all of us hop off, and when people hop off the chat, you just Google The Truth firearms, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But I released a signature series of guns called The Truth. They do way more. Hey, beautiful. Way more than just guns. These things are I would say, one of the most powerful tools ever when it comes to this kind of conversation about freedom. And FPC actually, in order to support, they did one thing. They helped me I took roughly, I believe the final count was 48 or 49 inner city children to go see the civil rights movie Harriet, and also take them afterwards and let other community leaders talk and engage with them and educate them on freedom and, education and the whole 9 yards. It was a beautiful, beautiful day that they helped with that. So did Walk to Talk America and Rob Pincus. And then they also bought 4 of those guns as giveaways. So big shouts out to the organizations that are realizing that they have to be in touch and have relationships. I don't say have to, but they're at least willing to reach out and have relationships to help spread the word and grow, because eventually there's going to be a change of the guard on all levels, right? And if we aren't taking advantage of the resources we have now on the ground level to help spread education and awareness, and I mean this wholeheartedly, the old white dude can't do that no more. It is what it is. Like, he's not going to have the same reach. That worked for a few decades, and now it's time for that to change. So we need different, diverse voices out there, different ways of approaching the thing too. Like, you can look different, but if you're saying the same damn thing, eventually that's going to get stale too. So different ways of approaching it, different ways of reaching out and getting to people. And if we keep relying on the antiquated system of Mona Lake 1776, although you might be right, you're not going to win. And that's why I ask people, like, are you more concerned with being right, or do you want to win? Because if you want to just be right, man, you can keep yelling Mona Lake 1776, cold dead hands and all those things. And you're right. You're absolutely 1,000% correct. And you're still going to lose. You're still going to lose because we aren't diversifying the efforts enough. So yeah, that's another reason why the grassroots organizations need support, because we're able to reach out, especially the faces that look different than what people think a gun owner is. You're able to reach out and touch people. I can walk into a neighborhood right now where there are literally, and I mean that, 150 people standing on one block and engage them in a conversation about freedom and firearms, where the 50-year-old white dude can have all the great intent in the world, but he cannot walk on that same street and have that same conversation. Why? Because of the stereotype that comes along with it. All right. So it is imperative that we are supporting different organizations to do different things. No different than going to war. We said when we go to war, when this country goes to war, we just don't send the army. We send everybody we need to send, and then even those branches have different people that do different jobs. For so long, the Second Amendment has just been one single sledgehammer, and not realizing that we have many more tools at our disposal. We have many more tools to go out and win this fight, but we refuse to tap into them. And the biggest thing of all is we refuse to support them, especially when it comes to funds and finances.
People need to pay attention to what's going on, period. We talked about Hank Johnson earlier. If people paid attention, the day that he said that Guam would tip over if you put too many Marines on one side, he'd have been removed from office. But people don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. A lot of these politicians get away with not being very credible leaders, and they keep getting elected because it's easier just to check a box than it is to take 5 minutes to research the candidates.
Well, again, that's true. But what we can work on, what we can look at is positive stuff, is that nothing can change. There can't be a change in a paradigm until there's something to shift to. So I want to take a second and say thanks to Kevin, thanks to Tony, thanks to Charlie. He's got an excellent project he's doing. Faster Saves Lives, Kids Safe, DC Project. I could go on and on. There's projects out there that are doing stuff like Katie just said. You can't say it any better. The world is changing, and the way that we're going to be going is with all different kinds of projects. Again, we're talking, it's without looking at the past and being frustrated. We can't move forward without the pieces in place. You guys are the pieces in place. Now the industry's going to see that, or hopefully will move the industry towards realizing that it is possible to fund y'all. And again, I was thinking about this last year a little bit, like adopt an advocate type of project for shops or something. There's networks out there for gun shops to distribute used firearms amongst themselves. There's networks for gun shops to do all kinds of things through their distributors and stuff. Now that the people are aware that there's a use and a need for individual activists and projects of all different types, again, like the DC project.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, give me a break. Talk about cutting new ground. How many people are even unaware of that? And if maybe there's some kind of a fund, our friend Artisan Tony created a 2A fund. He was part of the 2A patch last year. That was the concept, to just accumulate a bunch of funds and donate them to 2A organizations each month. If there was something like that on an industry scale, a large manufacturer, distributor takes on a fund, and then people get grants from that fund to do things. Those infrastructures take place once there's places to give those funds to that have shown that they're relevant, useful, and ambitious, and that's what we've got now. So it's frustrating to not have all this stuff in place when it's stressful like this. But I'm hoping that by knowing that we've got the potential for it and that we're on our way towards a better situation, right? We've got.
Can I say too? And I'm guessing I probably speak for a lot of people, not just myself, but I'm very thankful that that the industry is kind of changing, and that there are folks like Kevin and like Tony who, I know you can't see me right now because my camera's off, but you and I don't look the same, fellas. And I'm from rural Nebraska. I'm not from a big urban area. But the fact of the matter is that you're right. And I'm not a 50-year-old white guy. I'm a 40-year-old white guy. I can't go to that street. I can't have that conversation, and I get that. But what's cool is the fact that as a 40-year-old white guy, when you two talk, I'm still going to listen, because you guys have proven that you actually know what you're talking about. And contrary to what a lot of people might think, I don't think America is quite as racially divided as the news makes it out to seem. And I don't have a problem with anybody. I don't care what your skin looks like, what gender you are. If you're actually saying things that make sense to me, and you're backing it up with skills at a range, and I can see that you know what you're doing, I want to learn from you, because I don't know nearly as much as I want to, and I don't care who I learn from. And I think most of the people that look like me kind of feel the same way. So I'm thankful that there are folks that can go out and reach out to bring more people into the fold, and at the same time, you guys don't only reach the people that are on that street with 150 people standing on it. You guys have a reach that you might not even know about out here in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. Just so you guys know that. Keep up the good work, guys.
No, greatly appreciate that, and that is one thing that I can definitely. I agree with everything you said, and appreciate the kind words. But America is not as divided as people believe, or the news would have you think. That is 1,000% accurate, and that's one of the beautiful things when you can actually get out and start educating people on freedom, and when they see other individuals that you're like, man, I was really taught to dislike them. But you know what? They at least believe in the fact that I have a right to be free. And I always tell people, like, your enemy doesn't want to arm you. Your enemy does not want to see you with arms. That's the last thing they want. Arms and education, they don't want you to have. So anybody that's promoting you having arms and education is obviously not your enemy. And that goes a long way. And another way that we've been successful, I know I have, to reaching out to people is I don't talk politics. I don't. So I don't care when it comes to freedom. I'll tell people all the time, like, you know, one of the biggest bills we talk about in the history of the country that was a cynical bill. It's the 1994 crime bill. Look at what everything that thing did. It was horrible, right? But people are remiss to, they're like, oh, well, the Democrats did this, and the Democrats, and look, they assault ban for 10 years, and they lock blacks up, and they 3 strikes, more law enforcement, more prison terms. Yeah, all those things are facts. What about the 49 Republicans that supported it and said the only way that we're going to support this bill is if you take the welfare systems, or the support systems, if you will, away from the mothers that you realize that we're about to make single mothers with no income. You do that. So they took 2/3 of the bill away. And then all of a sudden, here you are with the 1994 crime bill with 49 Republicans in support. So we have to be open and honest with people and say, when it really comes down to your freedom, you can't trust the government. I don't care what color they wear. I treat the government just like I treat gangs. Same way. Both of them are going to make great proposals to you. I even hate that we have a 2-party system, but both of them are going to make great proposals to you. At the end of the day, your neighbor, that bus driver, the person serving you your food at Wendy's or Chick-fil-A, that is the individual that you need to rely on. That is we the people. It is not them the government over we the people. It's we the people over them the government. And the moment that we start realizing that your allies out there look different, have different career fields, but we can come together and say, this is not about political differences. This is not about your skin tone. This is about you being free. This is about you understanding what freedom is in this country and why this country is so great. And if you don't think it's that great, look at the potential it has to be even greater than your mind can conceive, is when we the people realize our power and we stop relying on any organization or any governmental system to tell us that. Once we tap into that, then we'll realize just how powerful and wonderful this country can be.
Amen.
Appropriate pause there. Yep. I'm gonna let it go with that. That's well said, and I think that's succinct. That kind of I'm sure speaks for all of us. So we're close to the top of the hour, and Tony is starting his podcast right after this. I already corked Ghost and Night Strike, I think so. Ran this chat right on top of a couple of other chats. I had to choose some time, so I chose Tuesday just because it was a couple of days out from when I was sending out emails to people. So I do appreciate Cheryl, Tony, whoever else might have jumped in and it jumped out. And I'll give everybody a chance here to plug their projects and say whatever else they might want to say. We've had whenever there's a large conversation like this, I'm sure there's lots of points that had to get kind of paused. So feel free to bring up any other points. I'm not going to end it right at the top of the hour if we want to talk a little bit longer. But again, thanks to everybody for showing up for this effort to talk about something that's hopefully useful, but a bit of a distraction from the norm, and kind of preparing for, as Second Amendment advocates, preparing for the after. I will be doing another one of these chats on Thursday, same time, and I'll invite the same group of people, anyone's interested, to show up. Again, Cheryl Todd was here from AZ Firearms, from Gun Freedom Radio. Tony was here from 2A for E. He's going to do what's it called? I always get the name of his podcast. Everybody's calling him Guns and Gears. Gun and Gear Review podcast at 9 p.m. Cycle Camp. Thanks for joining us. Want to plug anything on the way out?
I don't want to plug anything, but I do want to say, hey, call your friends, call your family, see if they need anything. don't get sucked into panic conversations. Just keep it real, and use like a 1 week planning window. Say, hey, are you okay for the next week? Is there anything that's really concerning you about the next 7 days? And if there is, how can I help you? Because the way you reduce stress is you break things into manageable chunks and you deal with them. And I think that's the way to do it. So if it's, I don't know how I'm going to do this a month from now, it's like, no, okay, let's work on this next week. And then when you're good for this week, we can start planning for the next week. And then we can plan for the week after that. And I think that will help people, because people get stressed, like was mentioned earlier, when there's no end in sight and they just don't know what's going to happen. And so in order to solve that problem, you have to set reachable goals, near-term goals that you can work towards and start to feel empowered about your own life again. And I think that'll help us get through this a lot better. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. KD, again, man of many hats. Awesome points tonight.
Oh man, no. First, I totally agree with the gentleman before me. Those were sound words and sound advice. And just to piggyback off of that, just make sure you're not, whether it's directly or indirectly, make sure that you as an individual are being responsible and not spreading panic and fear. If you're going to share information with someone, please take that seriously and make sure you have vetted and confirmed whatever information you're going to share out. And when you reach out to people, don't be the person that's always calling to deliver more challenging news. I totally agree with, how can I be a resource? How can I be an asset? How can I help you? That is sound advice. And the other thing I will add to that is, for the leaders in the household, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. Remember, you have to do small things throughout the day to make sure that you're okay. Because the moment that you panic and lose control is giving everybody else under your control permission to do the same thing. And once you lose control, you might not get it back. So make sure that you are, keeping your mind fresh, not absorbing too much negative, unverified information and things like that. And just, being a few days out, make sure you have the foresight, because everybody else is relying upon you. So take that pretty serious. Other than that, I look forward to engaging. I am doing, if anybody wants to follow me on Instagram in particular, that's at @the_real_NOC for no other choice, @the_real_NOC. It's also the same for all the other social media platforms, but on Instagram, throughout this week, roughly every evening around 6 or 7, somewhere up in that time frame, I'm going to be doing live videos, just giving out free tips and tricks to things that you can have in your home, things that you might throw away in your home that you don't realize is a resource, like dryer lint. That's a great fire starter, right? So giving some of those tips away. We're talking novice gun advice, and I'm just opening it up. I'm inviting people to come on my live with me that have questions. We can answer those questions, in a nice, honest manner, and address things that people have. So I'll be doing that all week and probably all through the weekend. I'm just going to keep doing that day to day. So please come over and join the conversation so we can get some of this information out to people. And if you want to support any of the efforts financially, we're on Patreon at /NOC Firearms, and we're also at GoFundMe /Aiming for the Truth. But I will appreciate your support in any way you can bring it, even if it's just sharing a couple of posts. Thank you guys very much.
Right on. And before I move on, I know it's a little while out, but is the second annual Train and Learn still on for the dates, or are you?
Oh yeah, man. Yet? You know what? Thanks for that. And I'm sitting here talking to a bunch of industry people, and I didn't even bring that up. So Train and Learn is basically elevator speech. It's it's an event that I put on. This is the second annual. It's basically professional development for the 2A industry. So it's a way for us to come together. I'm bringing speakers from all around the country. This year we got Cheryl Todd, Tony Simon, who was on here. We have Sean Herron from We Like Shooting. We have marketing director from Faxon. We have a multitude of speakers that are coming in giving seminars of information and education. We are also bringing in trainers, hand-to-hand trainers. One of my instructors from No Other Choice is coming in. We have Jason Johnson, pro knife thrower, teaching blades. We got Rob Pincus, Ursula 308, and Dustin Plouffe and Ken Scott, all teaching things about firearms, and myself as well. So it's just a way for us to come together for 3 days. That is May 22nd through the 24th, Memorial Day weekend. We have not changed it so far. Hopefully we don't have to, but that is going to be right outside St. Louis, Missouri. So it's 3 days of training that includes 2 meals, tons of content, education, firearms, the whole deal for $250 for 3 days of that. So if you're in the industry, the only qualification is that you have to be into the realm of freedom somehow. Advocate, activist, gun club, FFL, manufacturer, holster maker, podcaster, just something to say that you're in the business of freedom. And we would love to have you out and see how we can all sharpen each other up to be better at what we do.
Right on. And I'm going to ask people if you're doing any kind of effort to let people know about when things are coming. Be sure to put the No Other Choice event in your calendar so that as all these other things start getting shifted, people are aware.
Yeah, and we have 30 spots left. Well, I'm sorry, 40. We upped it by 10. So we have 40 spots left. 30 of them went pretty quick. And if you're looking for the information to the Train and Learn event where you can read even more about it, you can just hashtag Train and Learn, and you'll see all the videos from last year. Last year, I wanted roughly around 300,000 hits, but we reached millions. So it was really, really successful. But if you want information on it, just go to my Instagram at @TheRealNLC, and it's the link in my bio, and you can read all about it and sign up and register right there as well.
Right on. And thanks again. Kingpin, as we head out, want to throw anything out there?
Love a good conversation. I appreciate everybody from the chat room and everybody from the panel. Thanks for hosting, G, and I appreciate the invite.
You bet. And thanks for kind of helping me out behind the scenes here, making sure I got everything clicked. I haven't used the chamber live in a while, so thanks for all the help there. Patriot, you're next up. Thanks for jumping in from Michigan.
Yeah, just thanks for having me. I do appreciate it being in the room of giants here. But I'm just Patriot in the dark, the blind guy. So you can check me out and stay positive. And the only other thing is to keep a schedule. Everybody is kind of chaotic right now. You know, the be positive, call people, that kind of thing. But keep a schedule. If you have a kid, make sure they're doing homework, they're doing studies, they're learning something, they're reading history books, etc. So most important is the schedule, though.
That's interesting. When I like to say I'm no expert on this, I knew I was going to have people in who are subject matter experts, but I didn't want to leave them all hanging. It was not like I have a super scripted chat or anything, but I did watch some videos earlier, and that's one of the things they recommended was, you know, like getting up and getting ready for work like you would normally, let's say, or just get ready for the day instead of just sitting around in your pajamas, and you just have that mental mindset or whatever of getting something done.
Yeah, I try to have the kid do their homework before noon, and then, you know, set up extra things afterwards. It helps out. Don't let them stay up all night.
Infernus, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I think the only thing I would add, because everybody kind of covered most of the topics, is, you know, diversify who you follow and try to follow actual experts on these subjects. Why I haven't got all freaked out about what's going on, because I actually follow the scientists who work on these type of diseases and come up with the plans on how to, you know, save, you know, countries from going into turmoil. And so I'm not in the fear that a lot of other people are, because, you know, I actually listen to the experts in the fields.
That's a good point. I like to think I'm watching this whole thing from a bird's eye perspective, that, you know, the world is learning how to deal with social platforms. We're learning how to communicate at a different level. So when someone watches an expert and then someone cherry picks some data to verify their perspective on it, and then that gets, you know, telegraphed 3 times over, that's where you get this paranoia. It's just we're just have to get accustomed to this, right? Same way the first TV shows or the first radio shows, they had the scare with War of the Worlds, right? It took a minute before people figured out, oh, you know, we don't, you know, there's more nuance to this. You know, we're figuring out the nuance, and this is fast forward mode maybe, or you know, enhanced mode or something. Sandhills, you've got a podcast starting in about a minute.
Yeah, we do it every Tuesday at 9:00 Central Time. Call it Get Off My Lawn Podcast, and we kind of talk about 2A things or other things as whatever we feel like, really. Not just guns, a lot of fun stuff, but I try to make people think. Tonight is just a discussion on, doesn't matter if you're looking to buy your first gun or you've got a collection, but you're thinking maybe you'll get one more, just in case right now. What's the best thing to buy next? That's what we'll talk about tonight. So catch us on YouTube live, 9:00 Central Time. Thanks for the invite. This has been a cool discussion, G.
Right on. Yeah, it's great to have a chance to chat with you again. Thanks for jumping in. And again, you're welcome to jump in on Thursday if you're able again. That brings us to Charlie, but I'm going to take a break and go. I forgot about Mike. Mike was in here too. So I threw the link out to Mike Sadini and Walk the Talk America. If you haven't checked that out, he's done all kinds of interviews out there. Go just type in Mike Sadini and get the spelling in there. Do a search on YouTube. Check out Charlie's video for sure. But Mike is cutting ground in a whole different way. But Charlie, thanks again for jumping in. It's good to chat with you again.
Thank you.
And all you guys, feel free to stay. When we close, we'll still be in here. But Charlie, take us out.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's great to see all these friends and hear from all of them and hear what they're up to and the things that they're doing and the things that they're facing. The gentleman from Connecticut, I liked how he said to think a week ahead and say, okay, well, in a week, check on people. It really is slicing the elephant. I mean, I don't know. None of us know how long this is going to last, but we've got enough food to get us through. We've got enough toilet paper to get us through. Everything's going to be fine for the next week, and for the next week after that, and the next week after that, and then we'll see what the future brings. And if we have to learn new systems to make everything happen and to keep ourselves afloat, then we're going to do that. We're people that persevere, and everyone's going to do it. So it's great to be on. It's great to see everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, again, it's an opportunity for new systems. I mean, something as simple, I keep saying in the chats, like what it would have cost to get 2 Tomahawk missiles. We could have had so many masks, and ventilators or whatever the specific medical items are. We could have prevented a lot of this panic, right? With 2 Tomahawk missiles worth of prevention. And I keep saying, and we're talking to all gun people here, the Centers for Disease Control, they keep talking about a gun epidemic. What is their real job over there? Again, when it's appropriate with hindsight to go back and look at this, what has the CDC been paying attention to, and where did they drop the ball? And again, who cares what president was in charge of them? They all dropped the ball. But Charlie, where's the stagecoach going? I know that it's been, probably got a wrench thrown into it, but what was the plan?
Thanks for asking. I actually have a few interviews that I have to edit. I only put out shows twice a month on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. So I've got about a month and a half worth of material that I need to edit and put out. But I'm honestly hoping to take the stagecoach across America and get to all these cool events in July and August this summer. So this is I have to get out of my shell. Talking about learning new skills, I have to get out of my way and get over my fear of rejection and start to ask people for financial help and backing, and to be on more shows so more people can learn about this. And like I said, I'm trying to take the show across the country, trying to take the stagecoach across America.
Right on. Well, there must be some opportunity for some kind of a green screen virtual ride. If it needs to get to that, so you can always go into that. But when I look at that concept I've been throwing around of sponsor for stores to sponsor a 2A advocate, or for 2A advocates to sponsor a store, once that gets out there, I mean, what better ambassador to that concept than the stagecoach? Having a gun shop, having a couple of gun shops. I've gone to cities and visited 16 gun shops. You get 3 gun shops to sponsor the stagecoach to come out, talk to the advocates and the politicians or whoever's important in that area, visit the shops, and talk about a symbiotic relationship there.
I think that would be awesome. I'd love to make that happen.
Yeah, we'll keep talking about stuff like that. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. The people that aren't here anymore, thanks to them as well. Thanks everybody for being part of the conversation. This isn't the television. You're not getting programmed. You're part of this. You got a keyboard, you got a thumb, be part of it. I've dropped links to everybody who's been in the show in the description of this video, wherever you happen to find it, maybe on guntube.org, the software that's running this show, or over on gunstreamer.com, 2 platforms that are Second Amendment advocates that care about the Second Amendment. Thanks everybody for showing up, and we'll be back to pick you up later.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody, and be